You ever notice how jealousy can make you feel both alive and a little crazy at the same time? Like one minute you're thinking, wow, I really care about this person. And the next you're scrolling their Instagram stories like a detective on a caffeine rush.
Oh, absolutely. Jealousy is that weird mix of love, fear, and insecurity all fighting for the same spotlight. And depending on how it shows up, it can either protect your relationship or totally wreck it.
Right. The irony is jealousy was evolutionarily designed to keep us bonded, to guard our relationships. But in modern love, that instinct can turn toxic fast if we don't understand where it's coming from.
So today we're unpacking jealousy, why it exists, how it shows up, and what it actually says about us, not just our partners. Is jealousy proof that you care or proof that you don't trust?
I'm Troy Dyer.
And I'm Lelaina Pierce.
Welcome to The Love Divide.
So let's start with the big one. Troy, do you think jealousy is ever a good thing in a relationship?
You're throwing the hard ones early. Honestly, yeah, in small doses. I think a little jealousy can mean you actually care. Like if you don't care at all that someone else is flirting with your partner, doesn't that say something?
Okay, but there's a fine line between caring and controlling. Some people use jealousy as an excuse for bad behavior, checking phones, setting rules, policing who their partner talks to. That's not love, that's insecurity with a public relations problem.
Insecurity with a PR problem. That's perfect. But it's true. The research calls jealousy one of the most misunderstood emotions in romantic life. It's not just one feeling, it's this triad. You, your partner, and that potential rival, real or imagined.
Right, it's like an emotional triangle you never signed up for. You're not just reacting to your partner, but also to the story you're telling yourself about what's going on between them and that third person. And that story, it's usually powered by fear. Fear of loss, fear of not being enough, fear that history's about to repeat itself.
Yeah, and that's what makes jealousy such a paradox. On one hand, it evolved to protect relationships, to alert you when something feels off. But on the other hand, when it's expressed the wrong way, it actually destroys the very thing it's trying to protect: trust and intimacy.
Exactly. It's like setting your house on fire to check if the smoke alarms work.
That's painfully accurate. Therapists actually say jealousy can be both a symptom and a cause of relationship trouble. It can show that something deeper's going on, like attachment insecurity, low self-esteem, or poor boundaries.
And when you ignore it, or worse, weaponize it, that's when it turns ugly. You get what psychologists call pathological jealousy. That's when someone's fear of losing their partner spirals into emotional abuse or control. It's not just cute jealousy anymore. It's toxic and even dangerous.
Yeah, pathological jealousy is no joke. Studies have linked it to domestic conflict and even obsessive-compulsive traits. But what I find fascinating is how normal jealousy can feel at first. Like everyone's experienced that moment, you see your partner laughing a little too hard at someone's joke, and suddenly your stomach tightens. Boom, there it is.
Yep, the green-eyed monster moment. And most of us don't even pause to ask what it's trying to tell us. Instead, we react, get defensive, pick a fight, withdraw, or stalk someone's socials for evidence. But that reaction usually says more about our own emotional wounds than about our partner's actions.
That's what the report calls the multifaceted emotional system part. Jealousy isn't a single emotion. It's a whole system made up of fear, anger, sadness, and even shame. So if you just try to suppress it, it's like pushing down a beach ball underwater. It's going to pop up somewhere else, probably in a fight.
Or a passive-aggressive comment, or an, ooh, who's that text at midnight? But seriously, I think we need to reframe jealousy not as a moral failure, but as an emotional signal, like pain in the body. It tells you something's wrong, but you have to diagnose where it's coming from before you treat it.
I like that. It's not about eliminating jealousy, it's about understanding it. Because if you don't, it starts running the relationship like a bad manager. Always suspicious, never satisfied.
Which leads to what therapists see in modern couples all the time. Jealousy that's not really about the other person at all, but about insecurity, trauma, or unmet emotional needs. That's why jealousy shows up even when there's no real threat.
Yeah, sometimes the rival isn't a person. It's your partner's job, their phone, their independence, even their peace of mind. Anything that makes you feel excluded from their world can trigger it.
So the real question becomes, how do you tell the difference between protective jealousy and destructive jealousy? Between I care about us and I need to control you?
That's the tension we'll keep unpacking today. Because jealousy isn't all bad. It's just really bad at expressing itself.
Like a jealous toddler in an adult body.
Exactly.
So, we said jealousy hits people differently. Some handle it calmly, others spiral into detective mode. The million-dollar question is, why?
Well, a lot of it comes down to how you learn to love in the first place. Attachment theory explains so much of this. Basically, it says the way you bonded with your parents or caregivers as a kid shapes how you deal with closeness and fear in adult relationships.
Yeah, if you grew up with consistent love and reassurance, you're more likely to have what they call a secure attachment. You trust your partner, and even when jealousy pops up, you talk about it, not explode about it.
But if you grew up with love that felt unpredictable, sometimes there, sometimes not, you might develop anxious attachment. And those folks, they feel jealousy hard. They're hyper-aware of any sign of distance or rejection. Their brain goes straight to, they're pulling away, something's wrong.
Right, and then on the flip side, you've got the avoidant types. They don't usually show jealousy, but not because they don't feel it, they just shut it down. They're like, I'm fine, whatever, while quietly building an emotional bunker.
Yeah, the I don't care defense. But it's still fear, it's just wearing sunglasses. They avoid the pain by pretending it doesn't matter. Meanwhile, the securely attached people, the ones who can say, hey, I felt a little jealous when you were texting your coworker, but I know I can talk to you about it. Those people manage it best. They don't let jealousy drive the car.
Which is why therapists say jealousy isn't about trust in your partner, it's about trust in your bond. If you believe your connection is secure, jealousy doesn't scare you as much.
Exactly, but attachment isn't the only lens. There's also evolutionary psychology, which gives jealousy a pretty primal backstory. Back in caveman times, jealousy was basically your built-in relationship alarm system. It helped people protect their mates and pass on their genes.
Yeah, it's like our ancestors' version of Find My iPhone.
For men, it often centered around sexual infidelity because of paternity uncertainty. For women, it was more about emotional infidelity, losing a partner's attention or resources to someone else.
And even though we live in 2025 with therapy apps and open relationships, those instincts didn't just disappear. They still whisper in our heads. What if they like someone else more? What if I lose my place?
Totally, but culture shapes that whisper into a full-on monologue. Like in some collectivist cultures, a little jealousy is seen as a sign of love. It's protective. But in more individualistic cultures, people are like, nope, jealousy equals control. That's toxic.
Yeah, it's wild how context changes everything. In some places, people expect a bit of protective jealousy. Like, if your partner isn't jealous, they must not care. But in others, it's a red flag for possessiveness. So what counts as normal jealousy really depends on the cultural script you grew up with.
And gender plays a role too. Men are more likely to externalize jealousy, anger, confrontation, control, while women tend to internalize it, rumination, anxiety, sadness. Different expressions, same root fear. Am I about to lose something I love?
I love that you said root fear, because at the heart of every jealousy story is vulnerability. That's what the social cognitive models talk about. They say jealousy isn't just an emotion, it's an appraisal process. It's how you interpret what's happening.
Yeah, like when you see your partner talking to someone attractive, one person might think, oh, that's nothing. Another might think, they must be bored with me. The situation's the same, the story you tell yourself isn't.
Exactly. And those stories are shaped by self-worth and communication. If you can talk about your insecurities openly, jealousy becomes manageable. But if you can't, it festers. You start making assumptions, monitoring, accusing, the classic jealous spiral.
So to sum it up, jealousy isn't one size fits all. It's this cocktail of your childhood patterns, your evolutionary wiring, your cultural beliefs, and your current communication habits. That's why two people can be in the exact same situation and one shrugs it off while the other spirals into a full-on anxiety episode.
Which means jealousy isn't really about what's happening. It's about what it means to you.
Boom, that right there. We'll look at how researchers actually study jealousy, what the data says, how they measure it, and what we've learned from real couples about where it comes from.
All right, so we've talked about where jealousy comes from, our childhood, our instincts, our culture, but let's get nerdy for a second. How do researchers actually study something as messy and emotional as jealousy?
Oh, they've been trying for decades. The science is surprisingly detailed. Researchers don't just sit people down and ask, "So, how jealous are you?" They use validated scales like the multidimensional jealousy scale to measure how people think, feel, and act when jealousy hits.
Right, because jealousy isn't just one thing. It's got three parts: the cognitive, what you imagine, the emotional, what you feel, and the behavioral, what you do about it. So one person might just stew silently, another might start checking their partner's texts, and a third might actually talk it out.
Exactly. And to make sure the data is solid, this research review pulled from around 90 studies, everything from lab experiments to real-life therapy cases. They used databases like PsycInfo and PubMed and only include work with adults in romantic relationships. So this isn't just college dating drama, it's across ages and cultures.
And they didn't just cherry-pick stories either. They followed strict quality checks like Cochrane and CASP guidelines to make sure the findings weren't based on bad science or biased samples. That's a big deal because jealousy research can get messy. People lie about it or downplay it or exaggerate when emotions are fresh.
Oh yeah, the self-report problem. Ask someone, "Are you the jealous type?" And they'll say, "Me? No." Then you see them go full CSI in their partner's DMs.
Exactly. That's why researchers cross-check patterns, how jealousy affects relationship satisfaction, trust, and communication. And interestingly, the strongest data comes from couples who've done intervention trials, therapy sessions where they actually try to reduce jealousy and measure the results.
Those studies are gold because they show what actually works in real life, like cognitive behavioral therapy or emotionally focused therapy, which we'll talk about later. But I love that they also included qualitative research, real stories, interviews, counseling sessions, because numbers tell you trends, but stories tell you truth.
Yeah, the lived experience part, like how people describe that knot in their stomach or how they slowly learn to trust again after betrayal. That's the stuff that makes the data human.
And you know what's cool? Some of the newer studies even include brain scans. They found that jealousy activates the same part of the brain as physical pain, the anterior cingulate cortex. So when you say jealousy hurts, that's not just a metaphor. Your brain literally experiences it as pain.
That explains so much. It's like heartbreak in HD. But what's powerful about this evidence base is that it's not just about what jealousy feels like, it's about how we can actually change it. And when you see patterns across 20 years of studies, one thing becomes clear. Jealousy isn't random. It follows predictable patterns.
Yep, and if something follows a pattern, that means we can interrupt it, rewire it, maybe even heal it. Which brings us to the next part. What the data actually found, what causes jealousy, how it shows up, and how it affects the relationship long term.
That's where it gets really interesting, because the green-eyed monster, it's not just emotional, it's biological, relational, and social all at once.
We'll dive into the findings, what science says about why we get jealous, how it messes with our relationships, and the surprising ways it sometimes helps.
Why do we get jealous, and what happens when we do?
The short answer? Because we're human. But the long answer is layered. Psychologists say jealousy is basically insecurity in motion. Low self-esteem, attachment anxiety, and poor emotional regulation are like gasoline waiting for a spark.
Yeah, and when that spark hits, like your partner being a little vague about who they're texting, it lights up the brain's social pain center, that same spot that fires when you stub your toe or get rejected. Jealousy hurts because your brain reads it as danger to your bond.
Exactly. And once it's triggered, jealousy can show up in all kinds of ways. Some people ruminate, play the same jealous thought on loop. Others lash out or withdraw. The study actually breaks it down. Cognitive jealousy, emotional jealousy, and behavioral jealousy. So you've got suspicion, fear, and action, all feeding each other.
And with social media, that cycle's worse than ever. Cyber jealousy is a real term now, where likes, follows, or emoji reactions can spiral into full-blown fights. Suddenly, "Why'd you like her photo?" turns into a 3-hour debate on loyalty and respect.
Modern love, baby. But what's interesting is that jealousy doesn't always destroy relationships. Moderate jealousy can actually help. It can push couples to set boundaries, talk about needs, and reaffirm commitment.
Yeah, like it's a wake-up call instead of a wrecking ball. But when jealousy turns chronic, that's when things go downhill fast. Studies show it predicts lower relationship satisfaction, higher conflict, and even emotional or physical aggression.
It's like cholesterol. There's a good kind and a bad kind. A little keeps the relationship alive. Too much clogs the emotional arteries.
That's a great metaphor. So to sum up, jealousy is natural, but unmanaged jealousy is toxic. And the difference between the two is all about regulation and trust.
Okay, so we've seen how jealousy can both protect and poison love. But let's talk solutions. How do couples actually manage it without blowing up their relationship?
The research gives us a few good blueprints. Number 1, communication. Sounds basic, but it's the strongest predictor of reduced jealousy. When couples talk about their fears instead of accusing each other, jealousy loses its grip.
Totally. Therapists teach partners to use what's called nonviolent communication. So instead of, "Who were you with last night?" you say, "I felt anxious when you didn't text me back." You express the emotion without launching an attack.
Right. It shifts the tone from interrogation to honesty. Then there's cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. It helps people catch their jealous thoughts before they snowball. Like, "They didn't reply, so they must be cheating." CBT teaches you to challenge that thinking and test the evidence instead.
Yeah, like replacing "they're ignoring me" with "they're probably just busy." Those little rewires can save hours of drama.
But my favorite approach is emotionally focused therapy, or EFT. It looks at jealousy as an attachment protest. You're not really mad, you're scared of losing your bond.
That one's powerful because it turns jealousy into vulnerability. Instead of "who is she?" it becomes "I need to feel close to you right now." And that changes everything.
The report also mentioned mindfulness, being aware of jealous thoughts without reacting right away. You notice the jealousy, breathe, let it pass. It's like emotional jujitsu.
Yeah, don't fight the monster, just watch it walk by. And in cultures where jealousy's normalized, therapists are trained to handle it carefully. They teach that protective love doesn't mean control, it means trust and autonomy.
So the takeaway here is you can't stop jealousy from showing up, but you can train it. Through communication, therapy, and self-awareness, you can make it your teacher instead of your tyrant.
We'll talk about what happens when you put all of this together, how theory meets practice, and what jealousy can actually teach us about real connection.
So now we've got the tools, CBT, EFT, mindfulness, communication. But how does all this come together in real life? Like, what does it actually look like when theory meets practice?
It's all about understanding the chain reaction. Jealousy usually starts with a trigger, something that feels like a threat. A flirty coworker, a delayed text, a secretive tone. Then comes the appraisal, that internal story you tell yourself. Am I being replaced? Am I not enough?
Right. Then you get hit with the emotion, fear, anger, sadness, and finally the behavior. Maybe you pick a fight, go quiet, or scroll through your partner's likes at 2 a.m. What happens next, repair or chaos, depends on how you handle that moment.
Yeah, it's like an emotional domino effect. If you can pause between the feeling and the action, you can change the outcome. That's why therapy doesn't just focus on what's happening between partners, it also focuses on what's happening inside each person.
Exactly. Individual therapy builds self-esteem and emotional regulation. Couple therapy rebuilds trust and co-regulation. It's a team sport. And the cool part is, when both sides learn to regulate jealousy together, it actually strengthens the bond.
Totally. It turns jealousy from this destructive emotion into a source of intimacy. Because when you say, hey, I felt jealous, you're not attacking, you're revealing. You're saying, this relationship matters to me. That kind of honesty can be healing.
It's funny, you can actually see jealousy as an attachment signal. Your brain's way of saying, hey, this connection is important, don't lose it. So the goal isn't to shut jealousy down, it's to respond to it in a secure way.
And in today's world, that includes social media boundaries too. Therapists now literally talk about social media hygiene, like what's okay to post, who's in your DMs, what counts as emotional cheating online. It's part of modern jealousy management.
Yeah, we can't pretend the digital world doesn't amplify everything, but it also gives us opportunities to be intentional, to set boundaries and expectations before things go off the rails.
So in the end, managing jealousy isn't about control, it's about curiosity, asking, what's this feeling trying to teach me, instead of how do I make it go away?
And when couples can do that, jealousy becomes less of a monster and more of a mirror. It reflects where the cracks are and where the growth can happen.
All right, so let's wrap this all in something practical, because it's one thing to understand jealousy, but another to handle it when it shows up in real life.
Yeah, because let's be honest, no one's thinking about attachment theory in the middle of a fight. You're just trying not to say something you'll regret. So let's start with advice for individuals.
For anyone who feels jealousy bubbling up, the first step is awareness. Identify your triggers. Is it your partner's behavior or your own fear of rejection or inadequacy? Knowing what sets you off gives you power.
Right, because jealousy isn't the enemy, it's the alarm. The key is not smashing the alarm clock every time it rings. Learn to self-regulate. Breathe. Ride it out. Take a beat before reacting. Sometimes the best move is no move until your emotions settle.
And don't assume your feelings equal facts. Jealousy can trick you into treating assumptions as evidence. Ask yourself, is this intuition or insecurity? That pause can save a whole relationship.
That's gold. Now for couples, it's all about preventative maintenance. Have those awkward, what's okay, what's not conversations before problems start. Set clear boundaries for both real life and online life.
Exactly. And do regular check-ins, like emotional tune-ups. Ask each other, do you feel secure? Do you need more reassurance lately? It sounds cheesy, but that's how you keep the foundations solid.
And when those moments of jealousy do come up, use I statements. I felt anxious when, instead of you made me jealous. One starts a conversation, the other starts a war.
So true. And for the therapists and counselors listening, the research suggests one big thing. Tailor your approach. Assess attachment styles early. Some people need cognitive tools, others need emotional reconnection. No one-size-fits-all solution.
And never ignore the safety angle. If jealousy turns into controlling or abusive behavior, that's not a relationship issue, it's a safety issue. At that point, therapy shifts from saving the relationship to protecting the individual.
The best therapists mix methods, CBT for the mind, EFT for the heart. And they do it with cultural sensitivity because jealousy means different things in different places. In some communities, it's seen as devotion, in others, as danger. Understanding that context matters.
So whether you're the jealous one, the patient one, or the professional trying to help, remember, jealousy isn't proof of love. It's a clue about where love needs healing.
Beautifully said.
So let's talk about the darker side of jealousy, The point where it stops being emotional and starts being ethical. Because when jealousy gets out of control, it's not just a relationship problem anymore. It's a safety problem.
Exactly. Therapists are trained to spot when normal jealousy crosses that line into coercive control or even abuse. Like if someone's constantly checking their partner's location, isolating them from friends, or using jealousy as an excuse to control behavior, that's not love. That's domination.
Yeah, that's when you've left I care about you territory and landed in I own you territory. And ethically, therapists can't just treat that as a communication issue. They have to treat it as a safety issue because it can escalate fast.
Totally. The research says one of the therapist's biggest responsibilities is to distinguish normal jealousy, which everyone feels, from pathological jealousy, which can include obsession, paranoia, and even delusional thinking. That's when someone starts believing there's infidelity without any real evidence, and nothing their partner says can convince them otherwise.
Yeah, it becomes self-perpetuating. Every denial becomes proof that you're hiding something. And in those cases, therapy often has to shift focus away from the couple dynamic and toward individual treatment, sometimes even clinical intervention.
Right, and there's a huge ethical component there, because therapists have to maintain confidentiality, but also protect clients from harm. If someone's showing signs of escalating control or aggression, the therapist may have to break confidentiality to ensure safety. It's a delicate balance between compassion and responsibility.
And what I like about the report is that it doesn't just focus on the abuser side. It also talks about the cultural side. In some cultures, jealousy and control are still romanticized. Like, he's just jealous because he loves me. That's one of the most dangerous narratives out there.
Absolutely. That mindset, equating jealousy with devotion, needs to go, because it trains people to ignore red flags. Therapists call it cultural normalization of possessiveness. It's when society teaches you to see control as care. And ethically, professionals have to walk a fine line, respecting culture while challenging the parts that cause harm.
Yeah, that's a tightrope walk, but the ethical code is clear. Therapists must advocate for autonomy, respect, and safety. You can't hide behind that's just how our culture does it when someone's losing their freedom or their peace.
And that's not just on professionals either. As partners and friends, we all have to be aware of the signs. If jealousy leads to tracking, accusations, or emotional isolation, that's not passion, that's control.
And sometimes people in those situations don't even realize it at first, because it starts small, like, I just don't like you talking to him. Then, why do you need to go out without me? Before you know it, jealousy becomes the whole structure of the relationship.
Exactly. That's why education and awareness are part of ethical practice too. Therapists don't just fix problems, they teach people what healthy love looks like. Love with trust, not surveillance. Care without control. Jealousy without fear.
And that's the thing. When jealousy starts hurting one person's freedom or safety, it's not a love issue anymore. It's a human rights issue. Ethical therapy draws that line clearly.
So, if you're listening, and any of this sounds familiar, if jealousy in your relationship feels more like fear than care, know that it's okay to reach out for help. That's not weakness, that's self-protection.
So we've covered the good, the bad, and the dangerous sides of jealousy. But here's the thing. Even with all that research, science still hasn't nailed the full picture. There are some big gaps in what we actually know about jealousy.
Yeah, one of the biggest issues, most of the studies rely on self-reports. Basically, people filling out surveys about how jealous they are or how they think they'd react in certain situations. And let's be real. When it comes to jealousy, not everyone tells the truth.
Yeah, because who wants to write, I once checked my partner's phone while they were in the shower on a form that says, confidential. We love to downplay our worst moments, so the data can be fuzzy.
Exactly. And even when researchers use experiments, they often rely on hypothetical scenarios, like asking people to imagine their partner flirting with someone else. But imagine jealousy isn't the same as the real deal. You can't simulate that gut punch in a lab.
Right, there's a big difference between clicking somewhat jealous on a survey and actually seeing your partner's ex pop up in their DMs.
Yeah, the emotional stakes are completely different.
And another gap is representation. Most jealousy research focuses on heterosexual, monogamous couples in Western cultures. That leaves out a huge part of human experience, like LGBTQ+ relationships, polyamory, or open partnerships, where the rules and boundaries around jealousy are totally different.
Yeah, and that's ironic because those are exactly the relationships that could teach us the most about managing jealousy intentionally. When your relationship structure already includes negotiation and openness, jealousy becomes something you work with, not just react to.
Totally. And another missing piece is long-term data. We have lots of short-term studies, like what happens in the moment, but not enough research tracking how jealousy changes over time. Like, how does a couple's jealousy pattern evolve over 5, 10, 20 years?
And especially now with social media changing the game, the digital landscape has created new triggers, likes, follows, DMs, online secrecy, but the science hasn't caught up yet. We're living in the age of cyber jealousy, but studying it properly takes time.
Exactly. The next frontier of research has to be more diverse, more real-world, and more digital aware. We need studies that capture how jealousy looks in modern love, where relationships are global, connected, and constantly online.
So yeah, the data we have is good, but it's like seeing love through a keyhole. The full picture's still out there.
And that's what makes conversations like this so important, because while science keeps catching up, we can still learn from awareness, honesty, and real experience.
Jealousy isn't a flaw, it's feedback. It's your mind's messy way of saying, hey, something here feels unsafe.
Exactly. Jealousy isn't proof that you don't trust your partner. It's a signal that you need reassurance, connection, or healing. It's not about controlling someone else's behavior. It's about understanding your own reactions.
The research really hits that balance. Jealousy evolved to protect our bonds. It's wired into us. But without emotional regulation, it corrodes the very thing it's trying to save. It's like a smoke detector that keeps going off even when there's no fire.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is that when jealousy is handled well, it can actually deepen intimacy because it forces honest conversations about fear, needs, and trust. It's that uncomfortable emotion that, if faced together, can make couples stronger.
That's the hopeful part. Jealousy doesn't have to be the end of the story. It can be the start of growth, especially when you combine self-awareness, vulnerability, and evidence-based tools like CBT or EFT. Those approaches teach people to turn defensiveness into dialogue.
And the truth is, no relationship is completely jealousy-free. Even the healthiest ones feel that twinge sometimes. The difference is that secure couples treat jealousy as information, not accusation. They ask, what is this trying to tell me about us, instead of, who do I need to blame?
That's such a good point, because at its core, jealousy's not about who your partner's looking at. It's about how you see yourself in the relationship. It's a mirror, not a weapon.
I love that. And looking ahead, the research says we've still got a lot to learn, especially about jealousy in the digital era. But one thing's clear. If we can approach it with honesty, empathy, and self-regulation, jealousy doesn't have to destroy love. It can redefine it.
Yeah, jealousy's not the villain. It's the test. And how we respond to it says everything about how we love.
So, whether you're the jealous one, the accused one, or somewhere in between, remember, love and trust aren't about never feeling fear, they're about feeling it together and choosing connection anyway.
And that's the divide we're always exploring here, where emotion meets reason and where love meets the hard truth.
Couldn't have said it better.
I'm Troy Dyer.
And I'm Lelaina Pierce.
And this has been The Love Divide.
If you enjoyed this episode, hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who's ever wrestled with the green-eyed monster. Because let's be real, that's all of us.
Thanks for listening, and remember, a little jealousy is human, but a lot of honesty is healing.
See you next time.